Kia ora, good evening. I'm Eric Young. Tonight on Prime News, Helen Clark has the job interview from hell, making her pitch for Secretary-General to the United Nations General Assembly. As Lotto hits a $22 million jackpot, we've found someone in Southland who really should go out and buy a ticket. And the North Canterbury Cafe, where Lycra is definitely off the menu. Rain and cloud in the top part of the country, mostly fine elsewhere apart from showers down the South Island's west coast.
This is Prime News, first at 5:30.
Former Prime Minister Helen Clark endured the toughest job interview of her life today, facing an interview panel of 193.
Hello, a fair bit of unstable air across the country. You could tell with the clouds bubbling up like cauliflowers, with some showers and some thunder through the day. That all clears away. A quieter, slim ridge day tomorrow before another active trough moves in. It's going to be a busy week for some weather. Those dry spells, make the most of them when you see them. All the details coming up. Right now, it's 6 o'clock.
Colin Craig judged again, a ruling on the sexual harassment claims by former Press Secretary Rachel McGregor.
Thousands of junior doctors to go on strike. How will this affect hospitals around the country?
And Trump under the pump as his tax details are leaked. He accuses Hillary Clinton of being unfaithful to her husband.
I don't even think she's loyal to Bill. You want to know the truth. Why should she be, right?
Kia ora, good evening. We can now reveal the amount Colin Craig had to pay for breaking the confidentiality agreement with Rachel McGregor. The details had been suppressed.
Kia ora, good evening. 7 minutes. That's how long Warina Wright had known the man accused of her murder before she went back to his Surfers Paradise apartment.
Hours later, the 26-year-old from Wellington fell 14 stories to her death.
Bernie Sanders and Ted Cruz keep the race for the White House alive.
So let me just say, Hillary, get ready. Here we come.
The Panama Papers claim their first scalp. Iceland's Prime Minister falls on his sword.
And wishy-washy politics. The Turnbull team slammed by its backbench.
This is SBS World News with Anton Enos and Janice Peterson.
Good evening. US presidential hopeful Donald Trump has been dealt a severe blow by Republican rival Ted Cruz.
Senator Cruz's victory in the Wisconsin primary makes a contested convention for the Republican Party more likely.
Royal Commission revelations. Cardinal George Pell concedes enormous mistakes were made in the Church's handling of child abuse. Billion-dollar bid for cash. Transport Minister Jacinta Allen calls on the Commonwealth to help fund the Metro Rail project.
This is such a vital project for Victoria.
A history of problems. New details emerge about a BHP-owned dam which collapsed in Brazil, killing 19 people. And Mad Max makes Australian film history, winning 6 Oscars at the Academy Awards. Good evening, Tamara O'Dine with ABC News. Cardinal George Pell has told the Royal Commission into Child Sexual Abuse that the Church made enormous mistakes in how it dealt with offenders.
Tonight, one man's destructive rampage down an Ipswich street. 10 cars wrecked and 3 people injured.
A 6-year-old girl found dead in her North Side home, her father being questioned on the Gold Coast.
A new Chief Justice for Queensland, Tim Carmody's successor to be announced shortly.
And the end of a troubled career at the Suns for star Harley Bennell.
This is 10 Eyewitness News, first at 5, with Georgina Lewis and Lachlan Kennedy.
Good evening. A man is in custody tonight following a demolition rampage for 3 kilometres down an Ipswich street. He wrecked at least 10 vehicles before bystanders made a dramatic citizen's arrest.
Tonight, liftoff. From the wheat belt to the world, a daredevil grandfather's solo mission to take on the sky and rewrite history.
Hundreds turn out in Rockingham to remember a teen with Asperger's allegedly murdered by 2 women.
A new clue in a deadly hit run that killed a Morley father.
Theresa May shines in July, Britain's first female Prime Minister since Margaret Thatcher.
And from a bunch of bananas to a bottle of beer, why Perth residents are paying top dollar long after the boom.
From the studios of 7 Perth, Rick Arden and Susanna Carr.
Good evening and welcome to 7 News. Days of tension in our wheat belt have given way to cheers as a daredevil balloonist successfully set off around the globe in a quest to break a world record.
Tonight, a deadly mistake on a Redfern street. An elderly woman killed by a bus filled with passengers. Armed with an unlikely weapon and desperate for cash, masked intruders storm a store in Cabramatta. Copping it from all corners, the new Donald Trump recording that has Republicans reeling and his campaign in crisis. A Camden school blamed for more than 24 deaths. And high drama on the mountain as Will Davison claims the Bathurst 1000.
This is 9 News with Peter Overton.
Good evening. The woman has died on a busy road at Redfern after being hit by a bus while apparently trying to pick up something she dropped. Her identity remains a mystery this evening, with police still desperate to work out who she is.
On 5 News, the Health Secretary presses his so-called nuclear button.
Save our NHS! Save our NHS!
Anger as Jeremy Hunt forces doctors to sign a new contract. They say he's making a big mistake.
Can't just say, look, we've been excellent, we've given them everything they've wanted. And we're like, no, this is not the things we wanted. Like, this is a list of things that you've invented to sweeten the deal.
We'll ask the Health Secretary if he's taking a big gamble. Also tonight, Google gets a grilling.
You can't like the fact that lots of people hate you.
The tech giant's boss is accused by MPs of living on another planet. The secret of the universe revealed. Well, one of them anyway, as scientists solve a space mystery. Why those supermarket special offers might not be all they're cracked up to be. And a Valentine story that takes some beating. The wartime sweethearts reunited after 72 years. Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. So, the latest strike has finished. The talks have failed. Now junior doctors in England have to accept their controversial contracts or, as some are threatening, leave the profession altogether.
An industry in deepening crisis. 1,000 more steel jobs go and fears of more cuts to come. South Wales is bearing the brunt. Most of the losses will be here at Tata's Steelworks in Port Talbot.
The town has already been decimated and, any further job losses are going to make the area even worse than what it is now.
Also tonight, speak English or get deported. Cameron's controversial call to Muslim women.
The tennis betting racket, how even the world's #1 was once offered a fortune to throw a match. And
how did your old school friends turn out?
Friends no more. The original social network admits defeat in the face of a face-off with Facebook.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mark Austin and Charlene White.
Good evening. Workers call on the government to halt the decline of a once great industry tonight as another 1,000 jobs are shed from Britain's steel plants.
Labour claim they've hung on and there's triumph for the SNP as the people deliver their verdict on politicians in elections across the UK.
Nicola Sturgeon is elected to serve in the Scottish Parliament.
The SNP have won an historic third term in Scotland, though are just short of an overall majority.
You have given me a precious opportunity to change this country for the better, and I promise to seize that opportunity with both hands.
The Conservatives celebrate unexpected success in Scotland, pushing Labour into third place. But the Labour leader says his party has done better than expected after it won the biggest share of council seats in England. We'll be looking at the latest results across the UK and where they've left the political parties. Also tonight, the government climbs down from its controversial plans to force all schools in England to become academies. And escaping the wildfires burning out of control in Canada. Some flee in their cars, others have to be airlifted out.
And coming up on BBC News, Andy Murray back at his best. He's on impressive form at the Madrid Masters, beating Thomas Berdych in straight sets on his way to the semi-finals.
Good evening and welcome to the BBC News at 6. In the biggest test of political opinion since the general election, the votes are still being counted, but there have been already some notable and surprising results.
Good evening, I'm Judy Woodruff. On the NewsHour tonight, amidst new allegations of Donald Trump assaulting women, we explore how women voters in North Carolina are responding to an election increasingly about gender. Then Jeffrey Brown sits down with comedian Seth Meyers to get his take on how the late-night talk shows are taking on the presidential candidates.
I don't think in comedy support is a particularly funny position to have. I think it's far funnier to point out people's flaws as opposed to pointing out their strengths.
And it's Friday. Mark Shields and David Brooks are here to analyze another packed week of news. All that and more on tonight's PBS NewsHour. The Republican nominee for president is under siege tonight. More women have come forward to say they were fondled or groped by Donald Trump.
If it's Tuesday, it's Beat the Press.
I've watched you on television. You're a real beauty. You're a sleaze because you know the facts, and you know the facts well.
Also tonight.
Obviously, there was a street here. Yes, sir. Now it's covered in feet of water.
Texas floodwaters reach historic highs. Horses take refuge on porches. The death of a beloved gorilla. Is anyone at fault? Police open an investigation. And the children of gun violence.
When I was 9, I saw my father die.
Talking their way through the pain.
Kids can learn how to compose narratives that turn their harrowing personal experiences into recorded stories.
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley. Today, Donald Trump detailed millions of dollars that he's donated to veterans charities, which might have been a celebration, except he could not conceal his resentment that he had been forced to do it.
Tonight, several breaking stories as we come on. An ABC News exclusive. The young American daughter kidnapped by ISIS. Her parents making a direct plea to ISIS themselves. Tonight, right here, what they say the president promised. And now, the White House responding. Also tonight, the airport security scare. A man driving a truck right into a jet. Terrified passengers on board. A community in shock tonight. 2 nuns murdered. And now the urgent manhunt at this hour. Shot by mistake. The armed robbery, the homeowner, the husband who calls police. He and his wife need help. Police arrive and the homeowner is shot by mistake. And the tropical threat, we're tracking the system right now, getting closer to the U.S. Ginger Z is right here.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening on this very busy Friday night, and we begin here with an ABC News investigation. The daughter who was kidnapped by ISIS and her parents who now tell ABC News that they made their own pleas to ISIS to release her.
Developing news this evening, shockwaves from that explosive confrontation.
Because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
Donald Trump, wounded by the bombshell tape revelation, brings Bill Clinton's accusers to the debate. Tonight, a civil war has ignited in the GOP. Our new poll shows Hillary Clinton surging to a double-digit lead. Also, in his own words, what we found in the archives, what Trump has said about himself and women. Did he predict the trouble to come? Drowning in a deluge, frantic high water rescues as towns become swallowed in the hurricane's deadly aftermath. A race to save so many trapped with no way out. And off the shelves, a major move tonight from the nation's biggest cell phone carriers and a big blow to Samsung over fears of exploding phones. Nightly News begins right now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening. 29 days until Election Day, and our new poll numbers out tonight speak to the urgent crisis exploding inside the Republican Party from the top down.